Good afternoon, everybody. RT here. Hxro Labs, episode 12. Hxro Labs live with Nick Cote. How you doing today, Nick?
Hey, RT, doing well as always. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well myself.
Awesome.
We've got a bit of a new sound system working in here. So if anything comes up and you guys are watching, you're saying, man, that one piece of audio is a little loud or quiet, just roll with us. Let us know. Hit us up in the chat, and we will be sure to adjust that for your listening pleasures.
Sweet.
Absolute death on the weekend if you were sitting in a long position, comfortably layering on the leverage as things moved up. How did you see that one, Nick? And what's going on? What are our liquidations like? I
We,
heard 1 billion.
yeah, 1 billion, 400 million across Huobi, another 400 million on OKX, and the rest of the 200 million spread out FTX, Binance, and BitMEX. But that does show how much volume, whether how much of that is real, is happening in China. OKX is now surpassed Binance. It's surpassed all the U.S. exchanges, BitMEX for futures volume. I don't think it gets enough attention. Like we never talk about Huobi or OKX or anything like that. But they've been in this space around probably more than longer than most exchanges that people are trading on now. And there's a lot of big infrastructure, a lot of OTC traffic through there, so they can't be ignored. With Ethereum, if you followed our newsletter, our plan was on a break of 360, a break of 280. We were looking at that 360 level here, which was a former big resistance level on the weekly. You can see it right here. We said that if we did blast through this level here, we'd be looking at a 360 target, and if we got through there around a 420, well, look where we went to. We're off by $1. Pretty close. What we're looking for now, quickly. Actually, no, we'll go here. So now we were looking for this, 360 level to hold as support, which we're kind of doing right now. So as long as this level continues to hold, we're confident we're going to see a retest of this 420 level. And there's going to be a lot of resistance up here. 470. 500. Those are probably the next two major levels to be watching right now. If we do not hold this 360 level, when I say hold, I mean closing on daily above it or below. We're going to be looking for this 305, 306 level to come down here, which was tested last night that thing crashed, or the night before, over the weekend. Spot exchanges did not get down as far. But on Binance, I think they ticked all the way down to 305 after putting in a top of 420. A lot of exchanges just went down completely. Binance did fairly well, didn't go down, orders executed, but FTX completely unusable. I don't know if you're trading on BitMEX or not. I'm not, so I can't report what was happening there. I assume it was the normal liquidation engine just chopping through everybody. But bullish momentum looks good, like a complete retrace here on this dump on the daily here. It's the exact same situation right now with Bitcoin. So put your alarms under that 360 mark, and if you're still long, we're going to be looking for that 420. And if we do move above this and get a daily close above, we're going to be looking for that expansion up to 470 and 500. I can't stress it enough. We've had this such a long consolidation period. The momentum here is so strong. Short at your own peril. If you are going to be counter trend here, only be taking positions from place of strength, as you say. And those are going to be those weekly levels, the highest probability of reversals. Otherwise, ride the trend, don't fight it. And that's kind of the Ethereum. But if we move over to Bitcoin here, and we'll move off the line chart, even though it does look pretty good, doesn't it? Bitcoin, just broke its little range right here. We were looking at the bearish throwback level around that 11.5 all the way up to 11.6 area. If we do see, depending on the price action, that could be a great spot to exit your longs. If we do see a strong movement above that and a daily close in about 4 hours above there, I think we'd be looking at continuation rather than a reversal here. And where would a continuation take us? Trusty line chart here, boom, 11.9, key levels up here, 12,000, and highs there at 13,000. So that's what we're going to be looking for. If Bitcoin, again, we'll just draw a simple line here, Wyckoff theory again. This is at 10, 10.3 on here, but that 10.5 level, we talked about that quite a bit. As long as we hold above that 10.5, so, right here, we're going to be looking for taps of these two ranges. 12,000. This is a Bitfinex chart, by the way. Normally I go off Coinbase, but this is what was open. And as well, the highs up here at 12.9. Above that, again, there's so much air. We hardly spend any time up here. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Like I said, as long as 10.5 holds, don't fade this trend. It consolidated for such a long time under there. There's going to be a lot of pent up momentum and a lot of buying interest as mainstream media hops on this. And you know what? Like, they haven't even looked at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not in the headlines right now. Ethereum's not in the headlines. And here we are, just driving highs, right? So we said this before. I don't think there's going to be much retail interest in Bitcoin until we've cleared these highs again, from 13,000 and above. Then people are going to start looking at this asset right now. In their eyes, Bitcoin is dead. Doesn't exist. There's bigger fish to fry on most people's plates right now. But I can guarantee you, once Bitcoin moves above these levels here, you're going to see another mainstream media news buzz, which is, in the age of Robinhood, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on trade volume over there and see what we can get for inflows. So
I can confirm that the public, for the most part, is very much unaware. I was with an old friend yesterday, and I said, "Hey, have you heard about Bitcoin?" He's like, "Nobody hears about Bitcoin, bro. Relax. It's just you. Trust me." And I'm like, "Excellent."
Yeah, Bitcoin's pretty much a household name at this point, huge brand awareness. But in terms of daily active users, it's not that high. Ethereum has been crushing Bitcoin on daily active users, transaction volume, pretty much for the past 2 quarters almost, right? And again, we've talked about Bitcoin just being swapped to synthetic tokens to go take advantage of the DeFi ecosystem. I just don't see much of a reason for layer 2 development on Bitcoin when cross-chain technology kind of makes it irrelevant. And like unless you're you care about having a payment rails for retail, that could be the only thing I see. But smart contracts on Bitcoin, is there really a need anymore? I'm not seeing it. We'll just port over the security. Quick look at the US dollar. We said here a little bit of a bounce here. It's pathetic bounce. It's weak until it breaks this range here, or this level here at 12.17, former almost year and a half long support. This US dollar bearishness continues. It's going to be great for crypto. It's going to be great for Bitcoin. That's going to be great for commodities, precious metals like gold and silver and stuff. So yeah, keep an eye on that. But again, this is a high time frame chart. It's a macro. So all you need to do, set an alarm at the top of the range there. If it moves above, there's probably some news shift in this thing. So we'll keep an eye on that. Otherwise, there's no real reason to look at that on a daily basis. S&P, it just keeps going. The tech sector and a lot of earnings last week, especially in the tech sector, they just blew out earnings to the upside. That's going to help push things further. Right now we've kind of turned this 3,200 resistance into support now. So if you're long, you're going to be probably putting a stop loss right below that level, targeting this upper band here at 3,350 or so. And resistance is getting thin up here. There's not much up here. Bring an oxygen tank, because if we break this level here at 3,390, it's price discovery, and who knows what's going to happen there. Yeah, I guess you could take a fib and do some extensions and stuff. We're not going to get into that because, like I said, we like using the previous levels and price history to give us a little more accurate picture. I find once you get into price discovery, it's a lot of just guessing, just guesswork. There's nothing to anchor analysis to at that point. Unless you're a big GAN fan, I guess. GAN fan?
GAN fan. I'm a GAN fan, and it really is what you use those fib extensions for. It's right. When we're getting back up into space that we haven't maybe visited at all or yet during this trend, you can draw up a fib extension, and it will point, if nothing else, to a place where a lot of other people have pointed it, and therefore you're going to find resistance there just on the basis of fib traders using it.
Yeah, so it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy in that sense, like a lot of TA tools that I've come to learn.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, like so this is gold. We've been tracking this thing for months, and I just don't see any bearish weakness right now. From a market structure point of view, price is holding above the former all-time highs. Like, how can that not be perceived as bullish? Feet on the ground, speaking with local gold and silver bullion people, they're just 20-30% premiums in North America. It's pretty much similar all over the place. I think the US was restricting coin issuance again as well. So those are all super, that's a constraint in supply being issued, physically at least. There's still a lot of paper floating around. But as long as gold can hold these levels, there's just no reason to be bear. If it does break down from these all-time highs, like where's it going to go? Well, probably back to retest that yearly resistance, right? If that were to happen and we saw support forming here, I'll create a little scribble what we'd be looking for. So if price, I'm not saying this is going to happen, this is just a what if scenario. But if it did come down here and we saw this base form like this, you're gonna want to be buying this. You're gonna be targeting, here again, as well as these highs. And there she goes. So that's what we're going to be looking for on gold. If it does dip, I just don't really see a reason for a major retrace with the current fundamentals, shortage and restrictions on physical deliveries. It all looks great. We've always talked about how silver is really going to get, like, that's where you're going to get the gains. If we have a bullish commodity market, especially around precious metals, similar to how we always say Ethereum is going to give you greater percentage gains versus Bitcoin. It's the exact same theory here, right? So our trade paid out perfectly. We've hit 26 bucks, come back. It's not much bearish price reaction, really. So the next trade that we're going to be looking for here, we'll get the moon rocket, because that's where she's going to go. She breaks this level here. You were going to, I'll draw it off from here in the weekly levels. We're going to be looking at this level right here. Zoop, 32 bucks. For big former support level here, turned resistance. Confirm the resistance right here on this little retest. This is the next price magnet. If we can break this 26 bucks, we're targeting 32. Probably looks something like this if I had to guess. If I were a betting man, which I am. Go back up, little surge up there, take the highs. If we consolidate above this $26 range, like right here, that's incredibly bullish. You're going to want to be reloading, targeting this $32 range. From there, I don't know. Could it go up, take out these highs? Yeah, those are the next targets, right? But ideally, what we would see would be some resistance here, and it would actually come back down to the 26 and support there. So the point is that this builds a base. So it's going to always look like this: staircase, consolidate, staircase, consolidate, staircase, consolidate, blow off, right? That's your typical, this is the trades that we like to enter. And this, we're starting to form that market structure here. So this could be our first ramp right there. If we consolidate a little bit, take another ramp, consolidate, come down, get that third ramp. So that's the three drives philosophy. That's what we're going to be looking for here on precious metals. Everything, looking really good for the PMs and the digital precious metals, Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff. And yeah, things look really good right now, man.
Generally, a very bullish trend. Saturday, to me, there was a little bit of writing on the wall that I wanted to bring up today. You really actually have to look at the Binance futures chart on their site to catch it, because
which market are we talking?
Well, there's a few I want to pull up. Something strange just happened with one of my tabs, so I'm actually just going to go hunt for it real quick.
All right.
It seems to have completely disappeared. It's hiding here.
Well, while you do that, quick look at the ETH BTC chart here, since this is the leading chart for alt season, right? So again, I'll quickly take some of this stuff off. Goodbye. Okay. So we've always been looking for that retest. We kind of got it, didn't quite make it all the way back down there, but if you turn on candlesticks, the wick encompassed it. So we'll take it. What we're looking for right now at this point is a retest of this range here around, just under 0.04. Will it get front run? Probably. Everybody has access to the same data here. This is going to be the key level to look for here. We're not too far away from it, so your risk reward isn't fantastic. You're looking for 11%. I guess it's not too bad, right? But your downside risk is it's not great. R&R on that. However, the expansion trade, that's what we're looking for, right? Similarly to what we saw here, we've caught this entire move here. That's 15% so far. So if we do see price move here above this level, 0.04, we're going to be looking at here. So what would you rather capture? You're going to be risking that 11% for range result. You want confirmation that this thing is ready to go, because this is where it's headed, right up there. I could see it peaking out around 0.058 or so. So that's kind of my trade plan around ETH BTC. This would definitely pair up with Ethereum USD pair, going above that 420, probably closer to that 500. So keep a close eye on this chart, ETH BTC. This is continuing to be strong. You can expect that the alt markets will continue not to death spiral to zero, and the moon boys will all be happy. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. And then XTZ, it's almost ready. Like, how does this not go up? The majority of the supply is still being staked. I honestly don't know what they're trying to do. Like, everybody's just staking and earning more tezzies off it, right? Basically, is once we break this level right here, 3.3, I've set it for weeks that this is the big one to watch. That's the horizontal. I'm very confident once we move above this level, taking out these highs is going to be no problem. And in terms of price discovery, $5 seems like a nice number, doesn't it?
So, in a nutshell, trend-wise, you don't see any reason to be calling tops on this bull right now?
No, not yet. Like, we've had the first impetus move up, but until you get that retest to really confirm a market, bearish market structure, it's really, you're just basically trying to call a top with no confirmation. So until I see, some resemblance of a bearish market structure, if we fail right here or something, pull this out to the daily. Now I should put this on the hourly, give a little bit better picture. So you can see right here, this is the throwback level. Price is already starting. You can see it's reacting here, right? This is what we call that price reaction that we're looking for. So if you were long from the bottom of the range, you've probably taken some take profit here, moved up the stops. This 250 range is probably a pretty key level. You can see 2.5 up to 2.9 here, acted as intraday resistance here. So if we do fail, come back support, I can see it push up. If price just pushes above here, this would invalidate the bearish thesis on the intraday, and we would be looking at a retest of 12,000. So, it's just patience. Volume is really small right now. We could be ranging for the next few days. I know you were saying that Uniswap volume was dipping a little bit as well. So maybe people have taken a breather.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to pull that up to follow up with what we talked about on Friday. So I'm going to slide over here. And actually, while your screen share is on, I'll stick to this guy here. Now, this is a little ETH BTC chart that I want to take a look at that, again, for perspective, really gives us a sense of maybe on a high time frame where you look at this, you're thinking, who could call tops on an ETH BTC move at this stage of a chart when you really zoom out? And it does seem a little crazy to call tops. However, there's a lot of perspectives in the market. You got to check your time frames. You got to check your approach to the market. If you've been long from this breakout here on ETH BTC after we got that bullish retest, is now maybe a time you want to be scalping a little profit off of that. It all depends on your style. I bet, we're pretty close to a little ABC CD harmonic. If you line that up, we're getting up into that area. So really keeping an eye on the perspective. But I think for the most part, if you're watching this stream right now, if you are in crypto right now and you've been in it for a little while, you're thinking high time frame, you're thinking new paradigm, all these things. And so, if anything, looking for a pivotal window. Now, let me show you some, I should say, ominous ominous tips or clues or hints that I saw back last week on XRP. Now, you wouldn't see these on TradingView because the Binance Perps pairs are not on TradingView. So if you look up XRP USDT, you won't see the exact same chart as this. And there were some really crazy wicks on XRP last week. And actually, I think I showed you this one Friday, right, when we were talking. So I've got it down. Let's go up to the 4 hour just to get a little bit of a better zoom here. And we'll full screen it. Now, in some ways, this kind of foretold a little bit of what we saw over the weekend. So this is what happened on the 1st. So I believe that was, Friday morning, Saturday morning. And XRP had been trading all the way up to about 27 cents and then just nuked right down to 21.1. Perfect check of the breakout here. And I remember showing you that being like, oh man, and then it, and it took off right after. I was like, okay, what a sick long if people are playing those sort of bullish retests on the way up. If you catch that, great. Well, it wasn't about 12 hours later that the entire market did that. So there was a little bit of writing on the wall. Not going to say, you should have seen that coming on Saturday night, but there was some writing on the wall as well as XTZ, similar kind of wick that had happened. Again, on Binance Futures, you'd have to be looking at that chart, not on TradingView, but directly on their site. And we had that huge wick down, and this was on the 29th. So these kinds of plays were coming into the market, which to me, was a bit of a warning. Like, okay, let's maybe take the foot off the gas on some of these leveraged long positions that have been sitting in. And I was very fortunate to not have any plans on Saturday night. My plan was to be home trading. And it was around here, because remember we also talked, I think it was Friday, I was saying 420 is just going to be a number. I mean, it's just, it's going to have, it's like 69.
It's a meme.
100. It's a meme number, it's a good place to set that. We actually got up to around 418, and I was getting into the nitty gritty up here in the 5 minutes. And I didn't actually, I caught a short here. I didn't catch the short. I think I shorted somewhere up here and then, closed it out or down here. I was like, oh, cool, look at that, made, whatever. And then it just absolutely nuked. And if you zoomed it out, it really just ran all the action down here at these lows. So they got wiped. Seconds later, we're all the way back right up to around 370 and just chopping around. So today I've actually been tracking this rising wedge. When I see a strong move like that, obviously there's two ways, we're in a bull, we're going to keep going, but they want to wash out, load up their own bags, get that kind of liquidity down here and keep it moving. Or that's just a big dirty signal that, okay, the top is in and we're going to have to cool off for a few days. So if that's the case, and if this is going to be a situation where I want to be thinking hedge and get out and maybe, take some short positions up against these highs so that I don't have to worry about any of my spot exposure if we are going to come back down and do all those big retests like 250 that we were talking about. Personally, I don't think we're there yet, but I don't know. And so I'm not going to pretend to know. So here's what I'm looking at today as far as finding some short exposure. Actually, it might break down here live on stream. So we've got this little rising wedge going on up in the short RLZ of that move. Okay,
you just brought me onto that rising wedge too. It's pretty prominent.
It's clean, right? I mean, it's a clean looking wedge. It's got bearish divergence all over the momentum indicator. So as we're making these higher highs, the MACD is rolling over as we speak. So if you draw your fib from the high down to that wick low, again, probably, I don't know about being on TradingView, how far that wick went down, but I'm using the chart that I'm trading. So I'm going to be using Binance Futures. And again, let's get a full screen. It's a little cleaner for everybody to see. So with that, I'm just like, okay, well, let's see what happens when price gets up into this short RLZ, which is a location I like to short from, just like the long side down here on the opposite, because your RR is pretty tight, right? Your invalidation is new highs in this case. And as we're up here, an even smaller little fib I drew up after this little breakdown, I thought, okay, so we're testing this wedge low again. And if we're going to bounce off of it, once we get up into here, that's where I'm thinking short. That's where I'm like, okay, my risk is pretty small here. I can either risk to this high, I can have a little lower leverage, maybe just some spot trading, and my risk is way up there at 418. Personally, I'm just thinking I'll risk to the top of this wedge. And man, if we break down here, I don't think it's going to take much to push us over the edge and then have people, freaking out, because this was a pretty big sell-off. I mean, as much as you want to say like, okay, we just came to watch these lows and we're going on to new highs, it's possible. But that was a monstrous, sell volume on that play. Tons of liquidations, tons of carnage. So if we break down out of this wedge, I'll be comfortably sitting in a short hedge position. And, that just is what it is. It's the direction that the market's giving me right now. And, I can trail it. I'll probably have a target at 3-1. I haven't fully ironed out this setup yet because we're live on the air. But basically, if I'm right here, actually, 395 up in that little tiny short RLZ is where I had my asks. But as far as measuring this out, I'd like to get at least 3-1, which, I mean, come on. That's not very far at all. It's probably the first impulse. But at that point, I might move stop loss to break even, maybe move it to scratch, close a little bit, and then, Bulb's your uncle. You've got quite a ways down if this thing decides it wants to roll over. But, versus Bitcoin, we're looking extremely strong. So I don't take this, it's not really, this trade isn't one that I, am dreaming of riding all the way down. But if you look at the daily, I mean, we've had quite a few green days. And, the last few, I'd like to get a much cleaner chart up. I don't really need the BTC chart on here anymore. Let's see. ETHUSD. Okay, perfect. So here we go.
I like that tight invalidation level there, just above the highs.
Yeah, I mean, we're tucked right up against the highs off this, this big sell that, again, could be just marking a nice shakeout as we continue. Cool. Take my little hit here on the way up, and, my longs are still in position, my spot exposure, blah, blah, blah. But if you get into the daily, there's a lot of room here where we could just cool down, and it's still very much bullish. The bulls kind of took over on volume on that move. But the momentum indicators aren't showing really any signs of weakness. OBV still making new highs. So I think on the high time frame, I am with you. But for the sake of protecting the capital that I have accumulated through this sort of spring and into summer rally, I do feel obliged to be looking for these kinds of little wedge shorts along the way. And like I said, because my invalidation here is so tight, I don't really need to expect a lot of downside. I mean, even a bullish throwback to some of these highs here would cover that 3-1 risk to reward, and I could close it up halfway and just trail the rest. So,
I think at this point, using these short setups as an opportunity to get more into a swing position on the long side is what would I be taking away from this?
Yeah, and that, I mean,
when's that testnet coming on, by the way? A couple days?
That's a really good point, actually. A lot of traders over at TRI are talking about August 4th when that testnet kind of goes live as being a catalyst. So if that's going to be a catalyst that was driving some FOMO and hype and excitement into Ethereum, that's tomorrow. Is that going to be sell the news because the launch of an actual testnet doesn't really do anything for price? But it was a really cool story and a nice date. It's possible. So something to think about. Now, another thing that's been driving, presumably been driving a lot of this price action we talked about again on Friday, was the Uniswap craze. And you can see here, volume peaked on July 27th and has since then just started to taper off. So I wonder, this will be one to keep an eye on for myself as sort of a proxy to what the strength of the Ethereum bull is, because I have a feeling a lot of that price action had to do with people buying up Ethereum to get over to Uniswap. And again, not just people like you and I that want to maybe trade it a bit, but liquidity providers and people buying up thousands and thousands of ETH so they can go over there and scoop up some of these fees because $121 million in volume, and you're paying out what I think 0.003% fee per trade or something. So there's no doubt a lot of money to be made just by parking your Ethereum in the liquidity pools. So we're going to see how that evolves throughout the week. Right now, mostly just watching the majors. I think Ethereum is still in a bull. Aside from my little intraday here, which actually looks like it's breaking down live on us here. So if that breaks down, it'll probably accelerate fairly quickly down to 383, I would imagine. Other than that, I mean, Bitcoin dominance looking good. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even think I've looked at altcoins in a few days. I've been so eyes on these futures and that I've been trading. But you might remember last Wednesday we came on and we were just about to poke into this wrecked sort of range high territory where suddenly I'd have to go risk off with my alts and be thinking all about Bitcoin and Tether and Ethereum and really balancing and holding on to gains. But we crapped out the next day and we really haven't turned back. So this could be, as it's our second test on this sort of ultimate support that's holding up this whole thing. I mean, if that breaks down, that's where we get into that really juicy sort of retrace potential on dominance. Things like Ethereum, XRP, some of the other majors are likely going to lead the charge in that regard. And as we talk about liquidity cycles through alts, it would likely trickle down from those majors into the mid caps.
Yeah, agreed. That's why I think, keep an eye on XTZ and Link in particular. Those two moved really well in tandem. And I know, the Link Marines shot that thing back up over the $8. And I think I was telling you, I was, taking a position on Link because it was lagging heavily. And sure enough, about an hour and a half later, 25% pump, right?
I remember that, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, why didn't I listen to Nick? He was sitting here, all the right ideas, and it was, I think, a couple hours later, and I started seeing people be like, oh my God, Link, look at that, and I was like, oh.
That's one of my go-to strategies, and it's not even a secret. I don't even feel like I'm leaking alpha, but look, when you see a liquidity cycling between Bitcoin or Ethereum, which one is lagging between those two? It's usually a great trade because they're usually coupled. With the mid caps, it's the exact same thing with Link and XTZ, and then the small caps, they just tend to move together. There's so many small caps. I find it very difficult to be watching everything. You're not going to catch everything, right? But if you just put together a watch list of whatever's on Binance or FTX and stuff, and just monitor what hasn't moved, as long as it has a little bit of liquidity, probability says that it is going to get a movement. It just might take some time, right? So that's a little strategy that I use when I see markets moving, and maybe I've exited one position. I'm just looking for the next trade. And that's another thing. When I exit a position, I'm not necessarily immediately looking to get back into it, because that's hubris. That's just me assuming that my entries and exits are always going to be tops and bottoms. They're not, right? And that's why I like waiting for that market structure to confirm. Ethereum pushing here at 390, kind of starting to break down from that rising wedge. With these trend lines, I do tend to give a little variance to them for wicks and stuff. So keeping an eye here on the 388 local range as we continue our cast here.
Why don't we pull up that live shot and let's just look at some live levels, basically into that 1 hour time frame. Today into the daily close. We know global markets or U.S. markets just closed about half an hour ago. What are we looking at kind of through and into this evening on Ethereum that would give us confirmations either way?
I think low time frame momentum indicators, starting to cross down here. I'm just using Bitcoin wisdom right now. Eventually you get to the point. Everything's probably going to be pretty toppy after impulse back up. 4 hours still kind of low. I don't like these dojis indecision here. So what these candlesticks are telling me here is that the momentum has started to fade at these levels. It's clearly printing a $400 resistance, right? So that's what I'm saying. If we can form a range here, if ETH goes back down to 380 or something, and we form a range, it's going to be the exact same setup of what we've seen before. The longer the consolidation period, the greater the expansion. So if we can form a little range here for the next few days, and we start breaking the range, that's going to be the trade that you're looking for. Downside, like I said, here's 330, but where's the 360 chart? There's just so many gaps here on ETH that have gone unfilled.
Yeah. It moved fast. I mean, I think I've been living in the 15-minute world for probably the entire week, but I zoomed out to the daily. I was like, holy shit, it's just like a straight line up. I mean, at what point do we take some of that back and kind of healthy up that chart, fill some gaps, and then then we can think about 5 and 600.
Even on the volume here, like this has definitely been a spot driven rally, more so than just people pushing it on derivatives. Speaking of which, maybe we should take a quick look at the open interest. Pull open my handy skew charts here. Drag it over. So one thing we've been really watching, I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about it, but fuck it, let's do it.
Dive in.
Yeah, let's grab and that's the 1 month basis. We want the 3 month quarterlies. So we're just watching for the contango in futures. You see the 3 month? Oh, here we go, right here. So we'll pull this out to historic levels to give you an idea of what we're trying to tell you. Okay, so generally these are the premiums on the future quarterly products. Historically, we've already looked into this. BitMEX and Deribit, it peaked, like you should be looking danger zone. I should be looking to reduce exposure when this hits a 20% plus premium on this stuff, right? So why we think that these rallies aren't done yet? Well, using this logic, let's take it back down to the daily. Actually, we're going to go a little bit further so we can get that move from the first there. We'll do the 3 day here. All right, so this is before the dump. You can see we were, Binance was sitting around 18.4. It's getting very close to that magical 20% level. There's not as much data on the Binance just because the product's not as old. But BitMEX and Deribit, they weren't even close, sitting there at 14 and 15 respectively. And then obviously, they puttered out. Right now, though, it's not contango, right? So until these markers get above 20%, I just don't see a blow off top yet. I guess that's the main takeaway from this. As long as futures are trending up and we have this premium, it's pricing in that, or that the market's telling you that it's more bullish. The futures traders are expecting higher prices to be settled, 3 months or whatever the contract is. So that's really important to keep an eye on this stuff. There's only sample size n equals 3 here with these 3 tops. But again, a lot of these products aren't that old, so we just don't have a lot of data, so we can only extrapolate from what we got here. But something to keep an eye on. The BTC futures rolling 3 month. I'm not sure if you can pull that up on TradingView or not. What I really wanted to talk about here was the Ethereum future interest here. So let's quickly take a look at that. And here we go. Open interest. Yeah, you can see it's steady rise, steady as she goes. Even with that big drop, hardly any drop in OI. So traders aren't startled by this. And I think one of a chart we should really take a look at here are ETHUSD longs. The Chad Ethereum whale, he shaved less than 1% of the open interest on that dump the other day. So if you want to talk about strong hands, this is it. This is what strong hands looks like after, what was that, 20-25% drawdown in 6 minutes or something like that. Completely unaffected. This guy is clearly playing the ETH 2.0 staking game.
And if that's on Bitfinex, then his margin long is on 3% margin. So there's no real liquidation calls happening, especially since he's been building since February.
Yep.
So our Chad whale has not been shaken out of this market yet. Good enough for me.
Yep. Steady as she goes. Steady as she goes.
Now, Uniswap, there's a little bit of action going on over there. I want to pull up a few charts. If anyone in the chat here has any that I'd like to see, I've got a few sort of ways we can chart these. So I'm just looking over here on Uniswap Vision. I know UNC's been getting some excitement in the past few days. And as you can see, most of these things are going to be very new charts. So you kind of got to take your TA with a grain of salt. But UNC, let's pull up a fib retracement, see if it's stopped, extension, maybe where it was meant to. Oh my goodness, I just realized because it's Uniswap Vision, I'm not going to get my templates as easily. So I'd have to actually pull this up. But the 1.618 is pretty much the best and good enough as far as getting a quick and dirty. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, So, and I'd usually have the one just above and then the 2. So we are kind of up into that reversal potential for this leg up. And with fib retracements and fib extensions, you can also, it's kind of spooky how effectively you can map out trends. Because it seems like, next leg up is a fib extension, and then it pulls back into a fib reload zone, and then it pushes off to the next extension. DexT, as you guys know, is one I've been watching. As they approach the end of their closed beta, they're going to start charging people in DEX token to access their platform. And their platform essentially lets you access Uniswap in a much more visually appealing way, giving you a bit of edge perhaps as a trader. So I think as far as like selling shovels in a gold rush, this one has some potential, and they've obviously tied their actual token to the demand of the platform. If it goes up in demand, people are going to need to have those tokens or hold those tokens to gain access. So an interesting one. And since our stream on Friday, it did manage to bounce from this sort of higher low that we were looking at and make a move, which on the chart doesn't look like a whole lot, but I mean, that's a good 40%, 55%. It's a decent little move up. Somebody came in and got real excited and bought up quite a bag, it looks like, and took us up 100%, but that didn't last. So it's one I'm keeping an eye on. Anyone in the chat has any thoughts on a token that they'd like to see? Hit us up here, because we definitely want to look over some of these altcoins. I've basically completely abandoned altcoins for right now.
I think they're going to see a little resurgence here if the majors cool off.
Well, hell yeah. And I mean, look at the DOM chart. I mean, we're ready to break down into sort of unseen territories. So there really is going to be some opportunities here, I think. And again, I'm not much for like buying daggers on dips and trying to call, not call bottoms, but I just don't like placing deep, dirty bids when Bitcoin is sitting at some of those highs and making those aggressive advances that we've been seeing. So for now,
you never know when an exchange is going to shit the bed.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Bitcoin is just moving so strong, so it's not one for me where I just want to jump back into a big old bag of something versus Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But checking out BNB here, which is one that we had been watching. Actually, our very first stream we caught right at this breakout point here, and going into the weekend, I thought we're definitely going to want to see the bulls step in here at the 702 at this trend line, hopefully turn support. And that's exactly what we got over the last 2 days. So we've now bounced up. And if you look at the weekly, that was ultimately what I wanted to see on the weekly close, was that nice wick down below support, but a close back above. So the race is on for BNB versus Bitcoin. I think it is still looking strong and probably, keyword probably, heading up into this 230,000 sat resistance, confluent with the short RLZ of the previous range down, as well as the fib extension off of this first. In fact, that fib extension probably needs to be extended now that we made a new high. And look how well those align. How sick is that? Yeah. This is what I mean, like fibs, the whole thing. I mean, just not quite that, but I mean, your 702 right over there with your 189, 1618. So
I really love how those pair up magically with the order blocks.
Yeah, and they also happen to align perfectly with those support resistances, order blocks.
Yeah.
And if we zoom out, excuse the chart mess. Actually, I can just turn that off. I mean, we are at what is potentially the low end of the next leg up on a coin that never really had the bear market, right? Remember, BNB through the bear, I mean, yeah, okay, through 2018 had a little bit of drawdown, but it wasn't dropping 80, 90% like most. And then it was late 2018 that it put in a bottom and really just ripped faces all through 2019.
Oh my God.
And it was actually through here where they were talking about the US user ban that eventually came to fruition here. And I thought, okay, we're going to have like a sell the rumor, buy the news. That didn't really play out. It kind of got a rally, but it never took off, and we've just been consolidating. We're right down back against these breakout levels, which I believe is an 88.6 off of this. I believe I charted that. Yeah. So, I mean, on this high time frame on the weekly, we've pulled down, double tapped this 88.6, and we're now just making all kinds of slow, bullish, reversal type moves. And I think it's no secret that BNB has a lot going on for it. Binance, the business, buying up all kinds of stuff. No comment on regulatory stuff and how that might affect them going into the future. I feel like they're fairly well insulated with their sort of nomadic existence in the world.
Do they have offices in China or do they not? That is the question.
That was the big sell-off. I still remember that. That was back here.
The answer is yes.
That was disgusting. This was right here, September 4th. China ban Bitcoin. It was like, oh no, Binance is in China, so they must be going out of business, and it was terrifying.
The cops are on their way now. The cuffs are getting greased for CZ.
82% drawdown that day because everyone, you read the story and all you could picture is just like people seizing their assets, and you're gonna have to sell all your shit. So that never really happened, and after about 2 months, we just really took off from about 18,000 sats. Never looked back. So BNB's one I'm keeping an eye on the higher time frames. I think it's probably going to be really good for altcoins in general if this guy gets a rally, especially for exchange tokens who like to follow in its tracks. Something like Huobi token, KCS, and there's a few others. So yeah, Binance coin really on my radar after this breakout it was, and just the fact that all that death last Monday in alts really was just that sweet little test of the breakout, and now we're moving up again. So I like BNB.
Quickly, if you want to scroll over to my chart, we'll finish with the BNB, and looks like a lot of people, they want the 10Ds, they want the lid, they want the APRA, the NTA. So I guess we can get into those.
Let me pull those up while you go over this chart.
Sounds good. So as we can see here, BNB set the price alarm there at around 22.5. If again with our trading philosophy of trade the expansion, not the risk, that's actually a great line. We're going to be looking for expansion up to $26, $27. A lot of great price history here going back to last year, July 2019. You can see here, boom, look at that. Perfect Wyckoff throwback. We're going to be, odds are, I doubt we're going to blast through this in the first go. So what I would be looking for, something like this. This is reasonable price action, not moon boy price action. We'd be looking for something like this. Double top. Oh no, it's actually a W, and up she goes. So that incredibly bullish. Scenario number one, bullish scenario number two. Price does increase here, but instead of holding off this level, it's going to come back and retest this. If you see this, get Omega long, because your stop loss invalidation, it's not far. You can just put it under like 20.
Pretty tight there, yeah.
Yeah, you can be even tighter, $21, but depending on your leverage, of course, and your risk appetite. But we would be expecting this high to get taken out at the minimum, and true upper target, up around here. So like, what is that? 30, just over $30. So that's what we're looking for here. BNB, all the exchange tokens will probably follow very similar price paths, and a lot of good opportunities. So again, it's okay if you've missed the first moves, right? Like price is naturally going to gravitate towards where there's liquidity. That's essentially what support and resistance is, anyways. So with that in mind, you can plan your trade setups rather than being reactionary, which is traders' worst nightmare.
Yeah, you really, I do use a lot of market orders in and out, especially on perps when you're just moving with some high leverage and you're into that lower time frame. But the best way to trade, especially when you're learning, is to have the setup marked on your chart and have your orders working. Have your stop loss set before you even take an entry. Hot tip for anyone who's just getting started, especially on leverage. If you're about to take a position, really good not to rush into that position without a stop loss already working. There will be those very rare situations where you'll take your long or your short and your stop loss is not on the book yet, and then there's just an Omega nuke that goes against you while you're sitting there trying to calculate your shit and get your shit together and get your stop loss in. So someone who knows a whole lot more about trading than I do and who's been doing it a whole lot longer than me said he never, ever, ever enters a position on an asset without having the stop loss order placed before on a reduce only. So take that for what it's worth. We've got a few requests here. We're going to take a look at Dusk. We're going to dive into ARPA, ZAMP, Xample, in other words, and Lid. So I've got Lid up here. Again, not a whole lot to chart. We talked about this 5-cent level on Friday, which was acting as resistance, kind of put in a little double top. It has since come down, made a higher low. So good news for the bulls. We're getting a higher high, come down. We've made a higher low, and we are making a push. So what you'll want to see here, if you're a bull, is a break of these previous highs. Not a lot to work with here on the chart, because actually I think it is over here on Hex. Let's see if I can pull that up. No, not Hex. Uniswap.
Oh, Hex. Oh, no.
No. I call it Hex because it's bookmarked as the Hex pair, but it's really
Who put the stop loss on a spot trade?
Uniswap Vision here.
Well, I guess people who don't want to get blown out.
Yeah.
Just because it's spot doesn't mean it can't move. Like, we just had spot movements of 10, 15%. If you're trading with size, a $2 million position with a 10% drawdown, that sucks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was speaking really more about leverage trades and working with futures, but
I was just responding to Danny there in the chat.
Yeah, no, Danny's asking who does that? It's kind of lame.
Who does this?
But you know what? It's really, if the name of the game is managing risk, right? And that's how I approach it. Golden rule, number one rule: always have money to come back and play the game tomorrow. And I think a lot of people hate stop losses. And I get the impression, and I'm not hating on you, so if this happens to you and you're like, hey, that's me, don't make fun of me. I think a lot of people get burned on stop losses because they're just not setting them properly.
Usually they take them too tight on leverage. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, or it's just not an actual invalidation level. So bottom line is I've got a trade, let's say, and I know at a certain level, if price reaches that my trade is wrong. My idea is wrong. And if I'm wrong and the asset that I am long on is not going to go in the direction I want, or at least I can, for reasonable probability that I'm off, then get me the fuck out. Give me that capital back. Let me find something else that won't, that's not wrong, that I can be, get some money off. And I took a hit. And sometimes you do get stopped out and it runs where it could have gone. And that's, but zooming out on probability, if you're tracking all your stuff, if you're really journaling, in some cases it's because the leverage is too high, Dynasty, you're absolutely right. But I think, I don't know. Some people get stop losses a bad rap. Personally, I use them all the time.
Same. They saved me so many times.
They save me a ton of money. And, but it's about your strategy. I know people whose trading plan, does not involve stop losses. They buy a small amount of an asset, and all they set are sell orders to sell half the position every time it doubles, and they're willing to risk the entire position. And that's, it's just a different, more passive investment strategy.
I guess it's really going to depend if you're trading on fixed versus cross as well.
Oh God, don't even get me started on cross. Yeah, if you're not actively watching your cross trade, and you are
with no stop loss,
and leverage,
you're risking.
I won't get too far into this guy's story, but I know a guy, and through the end of 2017, he made his BitMEX account. He rode that thing up to $1 million. A pretty sick trader. Anyways, one night hanging out, I think it was something like sleeping pills or something, and he was blah blah blah. He was in a position, and he woke up, and his account was wiped.
Dude, I have a similar story, and this goes back to like 2015, 2014 during a Valentine's Day pump. We were all on the Whale Club TeamSpeak, and this guy was just crushing it. I think he made 7 figures as well on that pump. Well, turns out he didn't have any stop losses, didn't close his positions or take a profit or anything, and it dumped. It Eiffel Towered overnight, 100% retraced to fresh lows, and he woke up and lost it all. It was all gone.
Oh my God. Right. So, I think there's a sexy kind of like bravado that comes with like, you never use stop losses. Stop losses are whack. And look, if you're here for 10 years and you just want to build some positions and they go down and you're just going to add more because you're playing with small size and you got all this kind of fresh capital, cool. If that's your strategy, you vetted it, it works for you, go for it. There's no real right or wrong way. But I never hate on anybody about using stop losses. Sometimes they do get roasted. Sometimes you got to look back and say, well, fuck, that stop loss cost me money today. But again, high time frame, zoom out, track your shit. Stop losses have saved me an incredible amount of money, and they've prevented me from ever being absolutely nuked. So something to think about.
So you got a comment here from Jeff asking the invalidation level on ETH. I assume you're talking about invalidation on the short setup. Probably the top of this wedge.
Let's
really.
Take a look. You guys fucking rule. Thanks, Danny, giving us the shout outs today. Appreciate that. I'm feeling a little lost on Uniswap Vision right now because I'm really used to having templates, and then it's just a quick flip to get over to an extension. But here, I don't have that. So let me just see if I can 618 and reverse it and give us a quick idea of where lid might be headed. So if you believe in fibs, which I obviously do, then off this impulse retrace, your next look on lid would be up around that sort of 000149 or 15, which is really just testing the old highs. And even though it's Uniswap and people probably aren't charting because you can't even lay bids down here, how friggin' awesome is it that at the sweet spot got the tap? Let's just all have a moment of silence to remember why RT loves his sweet spot. So the lid has taken off to initial highs, kind of retraced, shook out a bit, and now is off. And if we are going to continue, I'd be looking at those highs as sort of initial resistance. And beyond that, it's a new token, and there's a lot of price discovery to be had if we do get out of this previous high around 152. So something to think about if you're a lid fanboy, trader, holder, what have you. Now, let's see. Jeff was asking about frame and where you are in the cycle. Yeah, it really does. I mean, stop losses on leverage is mostly what I'm talking about. I've definitely taken spot positions where I'm just like, I love this coin and I love it for an 8-month catalyst that's coming up, and I'm just going to buy some, and if it goes down, I'll buy some more. If it goes down, I'll buy some more. I'm not going too heavy. But I'd say 98% of the time I enter something, it's got a stop loss working. So let's look at Ethereum. Jeff wants to know, I'm not sure what you're asking really about invalidation levels. I mean, for me today, breaking out of this wedge to the upside, which seems unlikely at this point, it does look like it just wants to crap out here. I mean, I got to look at this objectively. On the high time frame, the trend is strong. I think with Uniswap and the growing sort of hype around that there is lots of reasons for people to be pushing this up. But I look at this chart, I see incredible growth here without any real pullbacks, any real shakeouts or retracements until this high volume smackdown took us right down to 302 over the weekend. And now we've just kind of trickled up on very weak momentum. I mean, you can see the MACD making lower highs as price gets pushing up, and we've got this rising wedge. So I'm going to short it. That's just the way I trade. And if I'm wrong, I'll probably find out around 400. Nice big friendly round number. And if that 400 squeeze comes up maybe on a big nasty wick and then it goes right back down, then I'm still probably looking to get back into a short. Other than that,
that's a key point that you just brought up. Actually, I want to quickly touch on is like getting back into trades once you've been stopped out. Like good traders are going to recognize that, the trade's been invalidated, but they're going to ride the momentum train, right? Yeah. And so that separates great traders from the peons of the trading world. It's just having that knowledge and experience to get back into a trade. Again, if it's a wick, it's a rogue wick, they happen, but the idea could still be valid, right? So just having that knowledge to get back in and ride the momentum, you've been getting to know me for a couple of weeks. That's how I trade. I really like the momentum. I don't like fighting trends. And so, that's a great point. I just wanted to highlight there.
Yeah, having the capital available and sort of the ability in the mental fortitude, if you will, to double barrel an idea if the first time doesn't work out. In fact, I'm going to pull up an example of that I love because it's one that we followed really closely. And I think I might have the chart up, but rather than searching these tabs, I'm just going to get it up fresh. Anyone who's been on our Twitter since May knows that we've been following Adam really closely. And this is a really good example because, it actually happened to me in this trade. I had been watching this downtrend for a while. Lots of things were popping off in the market. I wanted to get a piece of this bullish action, but I'm not about to chase highs and sort of chase leaderboard names, as you guys know. So I saw this trend coming down. We had this big ABCD harmonic objective tag right around here. At the same time, we had bullish divergence working on the MACD. So the MACD was making a higher low while price made a lower low. So that was my first hint. A few days later, we got a breakout here, confirming a little bullish market structure. Then about a week or two later, we pulled up through this downtrend line, which to me is not the be-all, end-all. But after tagging into the underside of this sweet spot, we kind of came down. And I had this box painted on the older chart here, and I just said, okay, that's my long. So once we broke out here, I thought I'm going to, well, I'll show you why I put the box there. For anyone who wonders, it's fibs within fibs within fibs within fibs. So if you take that bottom up to the top, there's your sweet spot, right? And so even after this bullish market structure confirmed, you could even see there was a higher time frame one that I have since erased. But you had the low, you had the higher low, and then the breakout here. So drawing that fib, that gave me my entry spot. Now here's why I'm talking about this today. We talked about stop losses and the idea of taking a double barrel. Well, I was risking to this low. So when I measured my risk, I'm a sweet spot entry. My risk was down to this low, so I'm giving up about 8% if I'm wrong. My target was the 50-50 GAN. So as you can see, that was quite a bit higher up. So it was a pretty good R trade. I mean, it's 7.8. And I got stopped out on a Saturday. I distinctly recall because I was driving up north. And I got out of my car and I had like 20 price alerts, and it was the day that just like a whole bunch of alts just all shit the bed simultaneously. And I got stopped out by like a pip. And somebody might come along and say, see, man, you never use stop losses. Well, okay, in this case, it did screw me over out of that one attempt at that one trade. But what happened? Next day, inside bar, then it prints higher. And I said, okay, well, that's what happened to me. I got stopped out and I got back in. So I had to take a double barrel on this one because, I've been tracking this thing, May 13th, June 27th. It's like a month and a half, right? And I'm going to let this wick just ruin my, high time frame trade idea? I didn't.
I don't know.
So I took the 8% hit. I saw the inside bar print. When the next day closed back above this initial down candle, I said, well, fuck it. That sucks, but I'm going to take that, and now I got to risk back to that low again. And I was rewarded. So I had to take a little higher or smaller position because my risk now is 12%. And I still ended up getting to bang out like a 5-banger, basically like 4.9 RR. So just a thought that came up as you were talking about the idea of, kind of double barreling your same ideas. If you're right, or, right, wrong, if you're confident that your idea is good, you can use stop losses, and sometimes they will get wicked. And you just have to decide, okay, was that like an FU wick and my idea is invalid? Or did I just get kicked out of a good trade and I need to get back in? And that's why risking, say, 1%, I think in this case I was 1 or 2% risk on the account. I take that hit. I have no problem taking another chance and maybe taking that hit again, right? If I went all in on this or, something stupid like risk 20% of my account, that wick would have really ruined my day, and it makes it really hard for me to then follow up with a 2-banger. So, it might sound boring to people who are living in 2x, 3x, 10x Uniswap town to think in terms of every trade being 1% risk on your account. But if you compound, let's play it the other way, 1% gain. If you compound a 1% gain on your account every week for the next 5 years, do the math. Quick, somebody do the math. It's pretty nasty. It grows fast. And so, 1% risk on the account means if I'm right on this, I'm increasing my account size by like 5%. So taking 2 shots at the same trade, definitely not a bad idea. MTA. I don't know what this is. I probably should, because I actually bought a little bit last week. Because I bought a little bit last week because of what we were talking about on the stream on Friday. Sometimes the right people say the right things, and I just think, okay, I'm going to skip my own FA. I'm just going to go get a little bag, a couple hundred of these in my Uniswap portfolio. And I don't know what I can really do with the chart. It's a fairly new one. It is right at the sweet spot in the short RLZ. I don't really like it too much if it's going to break down below these lows again. This is the FTX USD pair. But as you can see, it came down in here. Let's pull it up, see how much divergence we got. We did get some. Nice big low on the MACD. Higher low again. So this is slowing. It's coming down, but it's slowing as it goes down, giving you a hint of some potential internal strength. And sure enough, popped out really nicely, and now the retrace. So this is actually something this is where I'd probably buy if I was looking at a long, because you've already had your retrace, you've had a strong impulse out, now you're getting your retest entry. So sick shout out on Meta, whoever brought up MTA. Thank you for that. I'm going to go to my live notepad here. I did this twice so far, and every time I'm like, I actually have to write this down. Sometimes after the stream, and I'm like, what did I talk about that I was going to go and try to trade? So MTA, might have to add to my bag down here. Not a buy recommendation at all, guys. Trade your own shit. But those are my 2 cents. I actually like the location on it. That divergence doesn't help. This is a really good time to remind everyone that nothing on this episode should be considered financial advice. We are not financial advisors. We are just a couple of traders sharing our ideas in the market and analysts making a bunch of noise. So I hope you guys had a great time with us today. If you like what we're putting out here, hit us with a like, hit us with a sub, throw the bell on. And I think with that, Nick, we are close to getting ready to wrap, unless you see anything in the chat that requires our quick attention, because I know you said you had a jet pretty close to the end of our stream today.
Yeah, I'm on a tight schedule today. No, I don't see anything. I know we didn't get to all the charts today, but we will be putting those out through our Hxro daily feed. So keep an eye on that. So REN, RSR, BLZ.
Yeah, let's make that list now, because I got some time after this, and I'll just go hit us up on Twitter. So we've got REN, RSR, BLZ, and actually I had a BNB chart I wanted to get out there too. So if we didn't get to your coin today live on the air, keep an eye on our Twitter feed at Hxro Labs, and I'll be populating that tonight with some of these as a follow-up. But real quick, oh my God, REN. That's exactly what you want to see if you're a bull. We had the bearish setup come in. The short trade was there. It hit support, double tapped it, and what a strong impulse with some nice volume. So shout out to the REN boys, because this one looks really strong today. It's a nice vibe.
I'm really glad that we waited rather than buying that breakout.
Yeah. No, I think this is going to be one to keep an eye on. I mean, REN's a bag I'd love to have a free position in, buy and then set orders to sell half that bag on a double and just have that leftover free bag for years to come, because it is a project
it's a good one.
It's a strong one. It's just one I hear a lot about and from people that know their stuff. So I think with that, we were going to wrap today, everybody. So thanks for coming out for us on this rainy Monday, depending where you are in the world. Pouring rain down here in Canada. We will be back Wednesday. We're going to have Nick back on the air. We're going to go over your newsletter, I believe, on Wednesday, correct?
It's a banger.
So this week's newsletter is just about to hit the press. So if you haven't already, check out Hxro.io. There's a lot of big changes coming up. I think you can now swap with our latest release, right? You can swap pairs. Lots of cool stuff coming up there. So thanks, everybody, for coming by. Have a wonderful evening. Always play from a position of strength. Don't let this market have its way with you. Have your way with the market. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Signing out.